I wish I did lack critical thinking because y'all look so happy. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse podcast. Hey guys, it's Mr. Fox of the I Refuse podcast. I am back again. Want to talk about a pretty sensitive subject, but it's all too real. I want to talk about racism in the gay community, what it looks like, how it feels, what a person like me or other people that look like me go through in this community. Now, understand that, and this is from my perspective, somebody who reads between the lines and see past a lot of BS, that racism, prejudice, and discrimination is very much a common thing in the community. And when I say the community, the LGBTQI plus. I don't know if they added more letters. But nevertheless, what those three things look like, it's under the guise of what's called preference, which essentially is prejudicial anyway. It's prejudice under a thin white veil. It places everybody in a hierarchy that retains keeping black people and people of color as a permanent underclass. And when I say that, think of who gets to keep the privilege, who gets instant credibility, who gets a pass, and who gets told rules are rules. It's often apparent in situations where people that weren't there for something can speak the most and can speak the most on it and get the support and get insulated. No matter
What the fuck really going on right now?
how they go about treating the black person of color, preference is very much apparent in cases of cliques. The majority being that it's Caucasian gay men. And, although, you would think being an ally was the right thing to do, it's very apparent that there's a difference between being an ally and just posturing. It's very clear in the wake of 45's presidency, especially Black Lives Matter, as to who is actually an ally and who is just putting on for likes.
Come on, Trina. I'm here for it. I like this.
It's a reflection of how much inequality and inequity that's going on in the community. Understand that we're currently in a culture right now where sex and friendship are interchangeable. And when you see for about 4 years, every single instance, every single time, that you have some white gays out here that have a passing acquaintance with black people, people of color, whether it be on a superficial level, there's little to no interaction or engagement or, conversation, or we're only called upon for pleasure. There are some gay white men out here that fetishize black men, and that's where it starts and that's where it stops. When there are opportunities to be an ally, to have or to show that there was a substantial friendship, it's quiet as a church mouse in the room. Now, for me, having been part of the rumor mill or, the mind games, all the immature high school bullshit from a very young age, which is why I realized early in life that people are always going to talk about you, whether you're doing good or doing bad. You're doing something that they're not. Understand this. I mind my business. I'm doing my own thing over here. I don't bother anybody. But I am of the attitude that I'm just as deserving of something or someone as the next person. Quality. However, there are those around me that come to find out about 2 years ago, they don't feel the same way.
Girl, what's going on?
It's interesting to me, but not all too surprising because, like I say, most of these people don't have a genuine, sincere friendship with black men. They either tolerate black men or they fetishize them. Nowhere in that spectrum is very quality, equal respect, reciprocation, consideration to some degree, or at least a drop or two of critical thinking and due diligence, right?
Come on, Trina. I'm here for it. I like this.
When shit hit the fan, again, I was minding my business over here. When shit hit the fan and, a couple of people were inquiring about what random person over here had to say, which is, had to say on social media, which is his MO for attention and validation. Understand this, there is a toxic culture out here in the gay community that uses social media to recruit or gain a bunch of other strangers in their crusade against another person. It's happened to me, it's happened to other people that I know. And people in the comment section take to it, speak on it. Mind you, none of these people know that other person. They're just co-signing on the Facebook post. So that was the case in 2019, September 2019 for me. And mind you, I was at home watching Unsolved Mysteries with my boyfriend, which, by the way, the Unsolved Mysteries reboot on Netflix, you don't need to get into that. We were actually watching the episode of it was a lawyer / presidential aide, and the guy was at least in his 50s or 60s at the time, right? He was in the political fold around the time of like Nixon and Carter and Reagan, like at least a good 20 years, right? So he had a main residence in New York City with his wife, but he also had a summer house or a spring house in Delaware, right? Even though he worked all the way in DC. So he went home to New York City around Christmas time this one year, right? Spends Christmas with his family and leaves to go to Delaware. Gets to Delaware. Now, the house he had in Delaware, he had for a substantial amount of time. At some point during that time that he owned the house in Delaware, they were doing construction across the street, which he had an issue with because that land up there in that part of whatever city it was considered historical. And he took issue with, I think it was either new construction or they were doing a remodel of a house on what's considered historical landmark or whatever. And he had caused quite a storm about it, right? Apparently, there was he went over there one night, and I think there was somebody in there kind of squatting or whatever. And at some point, he ran back to his house across the street in Delaware, and I guess called 911 about a break-in. Now there were some parts in this Delaware house that were strewn about, like it looked like there was some kind of tussle, whatever. That's number one. Number two, he went. There was footage of him popping up in town in Delaware. He was at a convenience store, still in his slacks and his dress shirt and his coat, and he had his suitcase with him, or his briefcase. Now he goes out the convenience store, and that was that or something. But there was some kind of, from the investigation, it was alleged that he had asked for a ride to Philly. He had asked for a ride to Philly in an attempt to get his car or something. Because what he does is he'll leave his car, take the train, I think to New York or DC, and then just do it that way. So the only way they were able to, like, I guess, backtrack before his disappearance was through this surveillance footage that they found. Needless to say, he was able to get a ride from Delaware to Philly. Now the goal here was for him to find his car. So he ends up in Philly, and it's alleged that he ended up at the wrong parking garage. Now this is where the creepy shit is coming, right? So there's footage from in the parking garage, right? He's walking around, still in the same attire, right? With his suitcase and a shoe missing. And he looks like he's in a panic. He looks like he's confused. He goes down to the cashier counter, the office, whatever, down on the main floor. Has very little interaction with the person behind the glass. And it looks like he keeps looking behind him, like through the doorway to the garage. And he keeps looking around like he thinks somebody's after him. Very creepy. So during the course of the episode, his family mentions that he's on some kind of medication, some mental illness medication, which he's supposed to take on a regular basis, but he sometimes forgets or misses a couple of doses. And I think that particular night was one of those times, right? So it's late at night in Philly. You got this man that's walking around the city, looking for his car. Now, there's the footage from the garage. He goes, I think there's other footage along the city where he's walking, and then that's it for the rest of the night. So you think it's over, right? Like, clearly the guy got killed. They get more footage the day after. He is in the basement level of a hotel slash residency apartment building. It's like one of those access floors for like only the staff, like janitors and shit. There is footage of him coming out of a room with a new change of clothes on, and he leaves, but he doesn't have his suitcase with him or briefcase. And then that's the last known footage of him. Y'all, tell me how this man ended up in a Delaware landfill dead. Whew. That's a good episode, but nevertheless, I was at home minding my business like I always do. We had just had like an event the day before in DC, and we took a lot of photos and uploaded it to the Facebook page. Now, this person over here made a comment under one of the group photos and bounced. And there was 4 of us in the photo. This person made a comment that said, "Oh, look, it's a sexual predator." Now, one of the people in the photo was a teacher. Well, he still is. And was taken aback by that and went to go inquire. And then he hit me up afterwards and told me specifically that I was the target of that comment. And then more people got involved and inquired, just like this person wanted. And now I was the focus. Now, when I was asked, I told the truth, which, shocker, was different than the version that they were told. Now, understand this, like, I've come to realize at this point that if you can change the narrative, you can change people's minds, right? Now, keep in mind, I've been around these people for 4 years. We've been in each other's houses. I've, done things for the sake of the brand. We've been to yoga, we've broken bread, we've been to events. And without even thinking, like, this is me being who I am. Supportive and loyal and doing just, things I think a friend would do. Like, if I know you're getting married and you want us to come out and get dressed as, dress up as women, as like a playful ode to like bachelorhood, right? With a gay spin. And do that, we've been in each other's spaces for 4 years. And unfortunately, what it is that people need to realize is that in the gay community, the goalpost for black men and people of color is constantly moving. You could be of a person of substance and show and prove yourself to be a great person and a great friend, but the moment one of their faves, who's also white, their faves are not black people, people of color, shares in front of his fan club that in their own special way that they have an issue with you, they all now have an issue with you. And they now all don't like you. Keep in mind that sex and friendship with these people are interchangeable. I thought inclusion was the assignment. Now, mind you, we had a conversation not even 6 months prior about how this space or this room or these events, publicly and privately, are inclusive. That the people that are coming to these things are not racist, prejudiced, or discriminatory. But the moment 1 or 100 people complain or, anything that you could file under being uncomfortable around a black person of color to the point that they actually say something to another white person and that black person of color gets kicked out.
Girl, what's going on?
How can you still say it's inclusive then? So that's what ended up happening. They did a secret vote behind my back. And by the end of the night of that first conversation, I was like, yeah, this is getting into something that is not a reflection of what I signed up for. Slowly but surely, people are turning this series of play parties into something that they want, which is more white people and less black people and people of color, because they're skipping the part where their friends' husbands, friends of their husbands, their bottoms, their tops, their sirs, their boys, their pups, whatever the fuck, don't embrace black people. And because we are not fucking, and because I am less than a size 9, I am disposable. And I'm sure, it's clear to me that people will say and do things to convince themselves that this is the right decision, which in the long run it's not, because think about it. You have, as long as you appease every white person that doesn't embrace black people, you're not going to have black people at your party. It's already abundantly clear that it's veiled racism.
Believe in the power in you to do what you have to do. You have it.
And you have all the black people and people of color on one side of the room and all the white people on the other side. It's not enough for people that have the privilege of going into any room and having as many people line up like you want to control what I'm doing and how I move, which is the same way that you move. Racism and prejudice and discrimination is no more clear than when people are so adamant as to what their bottom looks like or what their top looks like. I mean, it's very prominent in the bear side of the community. White bears tend to go for other white bears. Okay, black bears exist. Some of the people at the table primarily or solely go for other white men. Daddies. Black daddies exist too. They tend to go for white bottoms. Black bottoms exist too. Time after time after time. And, you sprinkle a little white supremacy in there for a little razzle dazzle. And that's nuance too. They tried to teach me about nuance like I didn't know, while they were seemingly skipping over the nuance in the conversation, in the scenario. By seemingly being under the impression that because a white person complains, that means the black guy did something wrong. Understand this, white gays are just going to have to understand that when you're at a play party, black people and people of color will approach you to play with you. And you don't have to be an asshole about it. I mean, what makes us gay and what makes us homosexuals is that we're attracted to other men. Why does it matter that? Why does the race matter? And it's rather convenient that, the white gays around the table don't see it. And I'm like, it's in the first syllable of the phrase, of the word, what it's about. It's about race. And that's an attitude that shows up in behavior and shows up in emotional animosity. And it's not lost on me that white people don't see racism. And some people add to that are under the naive belief that their friends and husbands don't see race. They do. There are certain variables, interpersonal variables that are missing when your husband, say hypothetically, your husband who's white is interacting with other white men, specifically daddies. That is all too present when he's speaking about, referring to, addressing black gay men and gay people of color when you're not around. Variables such as condescending and patronizing and rude and arrogant, and there's thinly sliced layers of a superiority complex. I mean, and this person has tried it with me. I shut that shit down. He still does it to this day with a person of color that's still at the table. He's done it on numerous occasions with a black guy that's in the military and has since left. Now understand, this person, as do some like him, have this Black King Wakanda fetish, right? If you're black and muscular and you are oversized 9, all there. But here's the thing about when you fetishize black men. And this is why it's separate from what it means to be an ally or be a friend, right? It's a select few of black men that are embraced solely because of the size of you know what. And with that, that doesn't automatically mean they see you as equal. Case in point, how they treat people that are not muscular, that are not ripped, that are not physically deemed as something of use in that space. On numerous occasions, how this person conveniently lacks discretion with me. There was once a time where I had mentioned in private to this group that I was living in a place with mold. I had first bought my house back in 2017, right? Most of them came to the housewarming later that year. Even though most of them spent their time interacting with themselves, not really the host or the owner of the house, taking selfies with white twinks they want to sleep with. And I at that point I was like, okay, maybe this is the exception, right? So when I first mentioned in 2018 that I discovered mold in my house and I was getting ill, again, private conversation, group of people that I thought I was friends with. The first opportunity you have to be a friend, a mature adult, you bring up my mold issue in yoga class. A mixed crowd of people. Which, by the way, his husband wasn't there. I caught that. Like, in my mind, I'm like, you really go out of your way to like embarrass black people? To make them look stupid? Like, understand, like, what I got going on has nothing to do with yoga. Mold in house is not a yoga pose. Why are we bringing this up? And you have my number to call, to text. Very weird. Now understand this, like, I am a person that believes in discretion. I don't believe in that. Like, I've never moved like that as long as I've been around them. Like, it doesn't take a PhD to pick up on social cues, and it doesn't take a PhD to pick up on maybe I shouldn't have done that. Like, we're not even joking. It's very rare that the two of us are in that capacity. But yet and still, I keep a certain amount of decorum and respect, right? My choice. Hindsight's 2020. I probably shouldn't have done that. But again, like, even though we're a year or two apart, we're just, I guess our capacities and maturity levels are just not the same. And it's interesting because, somebody actually put this person in place to teach college kids. But in my own journey in life, right, I I've picked up on a common theme that with some white people that are in a lofty position or with that feel like there's something big, right? There is a dynamic that they have with black people that, and this has happened to me professionally, that are in a supporting role, whether it's like an administrative assistant, staff assistant, something that is everybody knows is of a lower pay grade on the scale. And with that, people tend to confuse that with a lower capability, a lower capacity to understand and do what's asked, or a lower intelligence, right? Now, take that with with this over here with this person. Um, they did that with me. They did that with another person of color who is also a teacher, but is from another culture, right? Another country. And understand this, like, as far as me and that person is concerned, two totally different people. Like, I'm from Baltimore, and I'm black. And as I get older, my temperament and my views for being talked down to, like, I have a really short fuse with that. And I usually give a person a pass. Like, I want to process, I want to make sure that I'm not delusional and I'm not crazy. I want to be like, oh, okay, so what just happened? Am I crazy? Did this person just right? And by the time that incident at yoga happened, that was probably the second or third time. Now, when we're around the group or whatever, and we joke about prolapse butts and shit like that. That's funny. But when you joke or when you think, and I'm just assuming from that person's perspective, there's a joke, and then there is disrespect disguised as a joke. And when I say disrespect, remnants of inferiority, remnants of you're less than, like, you go out of your way to come with some non-relevant shit in front of other people. That's not cute. So it was that, and then, I was at the bar after one of our meetings, just drinking water or something, and without provocation, without any context, he tells me to my face in front of other people that I'm nobody, I'm nothing. What? I think that was the first or second strike, and the yoga was the third strike. So I went up to him after yoga class, again, practicing discretion. No, that's what adults should do, I would think. And I said, yeah, that over there wasn't cool. And he was talking real fast, did a really passive apology, and that was that. Which told me that he doesn't mean the apology, right? Like, you have people out here that will throw shots for no fucking reason, really. Like, we didn't have an occurrence in the parking lot or in the elevator to make them do that, right? Like, you have people out here, I don't know if it's just like them needing to boost themselves up, that like do shit like that and don't stand in it. So that was my journey with that person. And, you know, now that this other thing is out, this toxic narrative, they are on some pick me kind of shit. Like, I walk into a room and then they walk out. You know, continuing the disrespect of black people. You know, it's not too surprising that his the other P in that pod followed suit. Now, mind you, the person wasn't even there. None of these people were there. As allegiance, I guess, or loyalty to their toxic best friend, they followed suit in blocking me on social media. That's to be expected. You're not friends with black people anyway. What the prejudice and discrimination looks like when it comes to black people in the gay community is that there are always more hurdles in front of black people and people of color. Like, if we're all pigs and we're all sluts and hoes, why are we putting more hurdles in front of black people to get to the end result? And then, you know, on top of that, you know, you say shit like, oh, you know, we don't control who people are attracted to. You do control, you know, who doesn't embrace black people, right? Like, maybe stop inviting them. I mean, if the party is inclusive, you may want to stop inviting people that don't embrace black people and people of color. Which is no more evident than when they come to you and complain. Why do you have an issue with black people and people of color approaching you at the play party to play? And why, in response to that, white gatekeepers, are you of the mindset that the black person's wrong? Because mind you, most of these people that are complaining already rejected me at the play party, which is fine. I mean, I can take an asshole. I can take not being attracted to people, a person not being interested. I didn't, like, if I wasn't able to take that, there probably would have been more people. But it's very telling, though, like, when you have white people that have that attitude, like, they instantly change or revert back to, because I really honestly believe it was always there, into profilers and stereotyping and, you know, all the dangerous white shit that ultimately leads to a black person being removed or viewed as a threat or viewed as a problem that needs to be neutralized and controlled. No. Because people that believe in equality and equity don't act like that and don't move like that. Like, inclusion is not a hard thing to accomplish. You know, it's just that people refuse to unpack those racist attitudes that are in fetishizing black men and not respecting them otherwise. I understand that, like, the size of this, y'all are weird. So I just had to get on here and be like, look, this is like a dark side. You know, you have the privilege when you're white and you're gay. You have the privilege of, no matter how chaotic and toxic you are in life, social media, in real life, you're instantly insulated. If you're gay, white, and popular, and again, in social media, you have so many followers. All it takes is for you to have this trash ass narrative where you are using your persona to play some victim. When we both know the receipts say something different. And other people take to that off of one trait that I have, that Jason's forward. But here's the nuance. Being forward means, hey, there's a really cute guy over there. I'm gonna go over there and talk to him. I may land a guy, I may not, and that's fine. But nowhere in that statement, nowhere in that reality do the variables in that trash ass narrative you were told over the phone are in that. And in response to that, you know, from these other people at the table, people are doing this thing where they walk out when I walk in, they give me the cold shoulder, and it's like, y'all don't like black people to begin with, so I'm not surprised. Y'all are not friends with black people. You were just posturing and being politically correct in front of the camera, in front of your husband, in front of other people in the club, in front of the community as a whole. But deep down, you guys are not friends with black people. And every once in a while, allowing a hung black guy in your guts does not make you an ally. Because you still have that attitude that they are inferior to you. And you don't reciprocate what benefits you're given, what accessibility you're given. And by the way, like, I'm not ugly. But that's the naivete, right? Like, none of these people are paying attention to the very environment then none of them are paying attention in the very environment that they're throwing their legs up in the air, because they're only looking out for themselves and their needs. And a couple of things people need to realize when it comes to being an ally. First of all, to be an ally, the first step would be to take yourself out of the middle, which I know is hard. Like, people, believe it or not, a lot of people in the community use opportunities such as ones with drama that they contribute to as an opportunity to make themselves look good. Take yourself out of the middle That includes your wants and your needs. For example, wants and needs for a play party, because all you care about is getting fucked. Um, and look at it from the perspective of other people. But nobody's going to do that because big sky is all that matters. Any opportunity, like you already have the privilege, you can go anywhere, any time zone, any city, and get yours. You can breathe and eight white guys will show up to your house because the majority of white guys are only into other white guys. Sex, socially. But see, nobody will admit that. They'll show you and how they treat you as a black person of color. But nobody's going to openly admit and say, damn, I am racist. I'm a racist gay man. But they'll show you by walking out the room when I walk in, by giving me the cold shoulder from now on. And their husbands and friends are not going to check them because they don't want to lose the benefit that is the penis.
What the fuck really going on right now?
But from their level of superiority, of popularity, of power and privilege, they want to imply or say in a roundabout way that you're just not attractive. Maybe that's why people are complaining. Are you retarded? Like, you're the oldest person in this room. And this was, and he said, like, after we met separately prior to, right? Spoke for about an hour and a half. I mean, regardless of the fact that you're now giving me the third degree, like I stole from y'all, like I set one of your cars on fire, like I stole from your house, like I actually did something criminal. If you look at history, as it pertains to how white people treat black people, this is an all too familiar script, right? Like, your go-to after 4 years, is to give me the third degree like you don't know me. Like I have no nuance and no gravity or no depth to me. Like, no critical thinking. Which, by the way, I wish I did lack critical thinking because y'all look so happy. Which, you know, this is a reflection of the very thing I was mentioning earlier, like people that have a superficial association or a passing acquaintance with black people and people of color. Because again, when the cameras stop flashing and the events are over with, everybody goes to their corners. They go to their house where everybody looks like them. I go to my house alone. You know, I don't get texts, I don't get calls, I don't get messages. Nobody had checked on me the last 2 or 3 years when I was going through a lot of shit that mold takes you through. But you want to say in front of your friends, they're not my friends clearly, that we're friends? This isn't exactly a news flash, but if you only call on black men, to fuck you and please you, you are not friends to them. Because that's all you care about. And the sad part is that these are one of millions of scenarios where the result is it keeps the gaps between people of color, black people, from white people. Because they continue to pledge allegiance to the very divisive attitudes that keep us away. And for the record, veiled racism, that's what it does. Anything, any word, any attitude that aims to keep black people and people of color out of the mix. This is the I Refuse podcast. I am Mr. Fox, and this has been one hell of an episode. Don't forget to follow us and find us. We're everywhere, and we're not going anywhere. Take it easy.
2 + 2 is 4, right? And 5 + 5 is 10. Okay. What the fuck is this?